or the air conditions are not going to improve much. It looks like even tomorrow. Here's a live shot of Alcatraz Island. We had the nice pretty colors earlier going on here right at sunrise, but now just that hazy sky conditions that we've been showing you from all the visions from before. Poor air quality, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be around tomorrow too. Wind advisory, red flag warning. The wind advisory hangs around until 5 today, but that red flag warning is going to be around to 11. Note the flag in the background there. It is pointing with that offshore wind still working. Continue dry tomorrow, even though the winds won't be an issue so much. The winds will subside. And into next week, some minor warming early, and then maybe some showers entering into the forecast. That'll be hours will be the focal point of seeing the winds really being active. We'll be banking off of a dry atmosphere. Certainly today, we see these low dew points. You saw them jump into the single digits. We go into tonight. Normally, they would pop up, but they don't. Tomorrow morning, look at them into the 20s, teens. Morning hours, dew point, humidity levels tend to be very high. Not the case either, because we still have that high parked overhead to our northeast like that. That also caps in this bad air quality right at the surface, so we're not going to get too much vertical mixing. Into Monday, it looks like the conditions remain dry still at that point. I mentioned some rain in this forecast. What do the models say? Maybe by Wednesday, Thursday, a little chance at getting some moisture bounding in here for some scattered showers potentially to carry us. We'll be right back.
At least 11 others have reported damage. She clung to a stranger for a hug. As they frantically searched through the rubble for Chris's most beloved possession,
oh my God, my wedding ring.
Her wedding ring. We helped them in that exhaustive archaeological dig for over an hour. Her shoes melted, our hands burned.
It burnt your fingers.
She did find some curios.
Don't burn yourself.
But not that ring. But earlier today, we got a message from Chris of hope tonight. For Nightline, I'm Matt Gutman in Santa Rosa, California.
3 on this Thursday morning. High winds in Northern California could fuel the flames of the now 22 wildfires burning across the state. Some of them nowhere near being contained. This morning, several new communities are under mandatory evacuations, and more than 280 people to 23 and burned.
The worst of the fires are burning in wine country across the North Bay, threatening Santa Rosa, Sonoma, Fairfield, and Napa. The city of Calistoga now under a mandatory evacuation order. All of Geyserville is either under mandatory or advisory evacuation. The East Ridge community of Fairfield is under an evacuation advisory, and officials have ordered a voluntary evacuation for Healdsburg.
Where these fires are burning this morning. We're going to start with the Tubbs fire. Now, that blaze has spread to more than 35,000 acres, but it is now 44% contained. A significant number of structures have been destroyed in that fire. Dunn's fire also includes the Norbum, Adobe, and Partridge fires as well. Now, together, they total over 46,000 acres that have been burned, and containment this morning is just at 10%. The biggest fire in the region is the Atlas fire. That's the one that's threatening the northeastern part of Napa, south of Lake Berryessa. 2 people have died because of this fire. It's now burned over 50,000 acres, but it is up to 45% containment. Let's take a look at now the evacuations that came down overnight. In the middle of the night, a mandatory evacuation or Calistoga Road to the city of reported to us in the last segment that the fire seems to be moving away from the Oakmont retirement community. But
acres, mainly. And their first priority, protecting life and safety property, as we've been talking about all week, is secondary here. Firefighters, though, have gotten the chance to drop some fire retardant from the air, and hand crews and dozers have been constructing a line, hoping to hold this fire back. Now, Geyserville is a small town, population less than 1,000 people, and right now, downtown, which is again on this side of me, is open. Only voluntary evacuations there. They even have power, so of course the hope is that it'll stay that way. Live near Geyserville, Ann Makovic, KPIX 5.
8,000 firefighters are trying to stop 22 California wildfires from killing more people. Windy conditions this morning are pushing the flames. At least 23 people have died, and more than 3,500 structures are destroyed.
Nearly 300 people are reported missing, but officials think bad communication may explain that. The wildfires knocked out power to 77 cell towers.
Burnell, Cron 4 News.
Okay, Camila, thanks a lot. We'll be right back.
Tonight, Cron 4.
Many people in the danger zone were caught by surprise and needed help getting out.
Elderly lady trapped in 3085 Allen Peak Road.
Alerts were sent out, but it's service. The fires also alerts over Wi-Fi. Since Sunday, a hotel
California, but we won't soon forget what we saw and who we met.
We took you to the Coffee Park neighborhood, completely wiped out, and that eerie sight, the fireplaces, all still intact.
Dozens of chimneys, nothing left of the homes.
But amidst the rubble, the flag draped on the back of a burned-out pickup truck. Another in the mailbox, still standing. And there was Mary Coffey in Kenwood, California, overcome with joy, finding her wedding ring, her family looking on.
And they couldn't get out, and the fire just burned around them, and they just sheltered in place.
And then again at 10. Stay safe, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Fires continue to rage out of control in California. 26 people are dead, and that number could rise. Sonoma County, California, has received in total 900 missing persons report. About half of those people have been found safe, but there are fears that others may turn up dead as crews begin sifting through charred remains of homes. CNN's Miguel Marquez is in Calistoga, an entire city in Napa County, which is under evacuation orders. And Miguel, you made it to the fire line. What's the situation there now?
Yeah, it's interesting to see firsthand. This is literally the fire line. This is Route 29 just north of Calistoga. Calistoga's on this side, so they're trying to hold the fire to this side of the road. That is part of the main fire, and firefighters are happy to allow it to burn like this because essentially all it's doing is burning fire line. The air where we're standing right now is actually pretty good because the wind is blowing in the other direction. Those vehicles you see down at that end, there was a spot fire, a fire that threw an ember over the road, and it started on that side, and they are trying to contain that right now. But rather than try to turn out these fires, they let them burn at a very slow rate as long as the wind works with them so that they can burn out all of that fuel under there and hopefully create a stronger line at the end of the day. This is a massive fire complex. The fire is literally from just north of San Francisco all the way to the Oregon border. This area in Mendocino, Napa, Sonoma County, just fire after fire, and they are all now at the mercy of the wind. It is a red flag warning tonight, and it could be in the days ahead. Jake?
All right, Miguel Marquez, thank you so much.
The threat from those massive wildfires in California. It is growing right now, at least 22 fires burning. Thousands more were forced to evacuate overnight.
Hundreds of people are still reported missing. California's top fire official is calling this a critical, catastrophic event, saying the fires are burning faster than firefighters can run.
And the scale of the damage is really coming into focus right now. Look at this drone footage right here. It shows the town of Santa Rosa. It's just laid to waste right there. Our senior national correspondent Matt Gutman is there. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. When you see those fires on the march, you get a sense for why officials here are saying there's no hope of stopping these fires right now. They are only trying to slow them down. Now, there is an army of firefighters out here from 1,000 different departments, 5 different states. Now, this was the Cardinal Newman High School. You can see what the intensity of these fires can do to places like this. And with the death toll here rising to 23 overnight, the focus now is not saving property, it's just saving lives. Officials are calling the inferno a worst-case scenario.
These fires are just literally burning faster than firefighters can run.
Overnight, the winds picking up speed, spreading the fire at a feverish pace. This scene a chilling reminder of the brutal conditions that more than 8,000 firefighters face here. As this home burns to the ground, firefighters must give up and focus on saving the houses not yet in flames. And as the fire looms over downtown Sonoma, business owners scrambling to save whatever they can.
And I built 30 years in my business, and I'm not letting fire take it.
Mandatory evacuations turning thriving communities into ghost towns. And an eerie silence now hanging over the small town of Calistoga in the heart of wine country after police went door to door telling everyone in the community of 5,000 to get out now. That advanced warning, not a luxury afforded to Santa Rosa, 17 miles away. There, the fire swept through so fast that many first responders and residents were trapped. This video, just shared by Travis Hahn, shows his dramatic escape.
There are a series of long change the world. Start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task. And another. And another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the
How disastrous this was for this school. There were 600 kids here, and right there you can see air conditioner units that have fallen through behind me. I think you can make out those file cabinets and servers right behind them. All of the school's books, all of the school's servers completely destroyed. Now, I want to give you a sense of what these pieces of mangled metal are right here. These are school desks, and there are hundreds of them here. Now, luckily, none of the students were here at the time the fire swept through, but I also want to give you a sense of why this is so dangerous for firefighters to get through these places. There are nails pretty much everywhere you look. I want to show you something over here too, guys. These were temporary classrooms. They're not built to withstand fires like this, and they essentially melted as the fire swept through here. And when you look at the totality here, you can understand how affected this community was. Schools, businesses, homes, and of course lives. Guys.
Yeah.
And this fire was fast, and it came up about the 3 miles up that ridge, like just in no time at all.
We got out, but I will never, ever wait that long again. It just, we kept thinking that it was going to be better than it was, and it wasn't.
You walk by your neighbors and everything's gone.
It hurts. This is going to take a long time to recover from this.
It takes your life away. The things that you worked for, the things that you cherished.
Their whole life, you know, their whole life is gone.
From across the country. This strike team from Ontario and Southern California has had precious little sleep.
We left the city of Tustin from the Canyon fire at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we drove to get here as quickly as we could. We arrived at 1 o'clock in the morning. We got up at 6, and we went out on the fire line at 7 o'clock yesterday morning.
The Ontario strike team has been working to save homes threatened by the wildfires, while others are part of hand crews that are cutting fire breaks, starting backfires, or battling flames like this crew did last night off Route 29 near Calistoga.
The hand crews experience the toughest conditions out there.
there where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. And so they are right on the direct line of the fire with their hand tools.
It's 24 hours on and 24 hours off. Most of the firefighters sleep on the ground in a sea of tents here at base camp. As one strike team rolls in off the fire, another heads out to take its place. And they are coming from all across the country, from Canada and Mexico, too. They are gaining ground in the Napa fires, which are a combined 27% contained as of late this afternoon. Tonight, with high winds forecast and the potential for still more extreme fire behavior, they will be put to the test once again.
For a few nights there, we were just sleeping in the elements when incidents were first breaking out. But, I mean, that's part of the job. We know what we signed up to do, and we love doing it.
In the bigger picture, everybody's here to help. It's not just us. It's not one individual. So everybody's here to do one job. That's to, save life and property.
And it's very emotional because of the families that have lost so much. And for me, it's never old. It's new. And I bring a respect to them families. And that's why we're here to help these folks up here.
Pretty vast. Take a look. We can't get past the fence right now because currently search and rescue teams are looking for bodies and remains. But in the distance, you can see some areas that actually survived. Now, of course, it doesn't take away the sadness of everything else that was destroyed here. But I did speak with a man here who lives in the park. He actually helped save the back part of the mobile home park. He's a former firefighter. He noticed that the farthest street closest to Kaiser still stood a chance, and he thought it could be salvaged if only he could get help or a hose or something from some of the firefighters who were there, and they did come in to help him.
Got me 3 more guys. They went down the other end. They worked their butts off. They put down that whole side. Saved all those homes on that side. Some of these folks haven't come back yet because they think their homes are burned down. They're still there. We don't know how to tell them.
So again, there are homes still standing, and since Grant, you were naming specific areas and talking about that map, let's talk about some specific areas in this mobile home park. Sahara Street. It's the back side of Sahara Street, the one that's facing Kaiser, right up against that back fence. From one end to the other, as we understand it, from what we've been told by that man Priest, one end to the other, untouched. If your mobile home is on the back end of Sahara Street, it's still standing. And as for that, across the street from the mobile homes there, all the way almost to the laundry room, he says just about everything is still standing. There are a few homes on that part of the street that were lost, however, so it's not a guarantee. But if you live in that portion of the mobile home park, there is a chance that perhaps you do have your home still standing. And thanks to firefighters, thanks to that man there, Priest Morgan, who wasn't quite ready to give up. And now behind me right now, you see a lot of the Sheriff's Office search and rescue crews who are, we saw them getting dust and ash blown off of them as they come out of the search. And this is something we can presume will go on for quite a while.
Tribune today, this morning's edition, top of the fold, A1, the week Sonoma burned. That's what's on people's mind right here, and unfortunately, we got to look firsthand at some of those areas that were burned today. Fewer than 10 miles away from downtown Sonoma, a charred, blackened landscape. Many vineyards and buildings intact, but a once bucolic scenery now changed. Here we met up with Gil Parsons, who has lived in these hills for over 3 decades.
So we were evacuated several days ago, and this is the first I've been back.
Remnants of the fire all around.
Everything's scorched immediately beyond us, and now scorched from the other side as well.
But miraculously, the fire stopped at his property. Fire was right here, right? This is your property.
That's amazing. It's beyond comprehension. Perhaps there's some magic force that we don't know about.
All but one of his animals survived, cared for by Good Samaritan neighbors.
It's incredible, the spirit that people are showing. It's especially the animal people. Everybody has joined together.
When Gil came back to his property here, he saw that there was one patch of land still smoking. Omar here is wetting it down with water to make sure it doesn't reignite. Omar Estrada works for Parsons. The fire came close to his own house, but his home is intact.
Es triste ver nuestro Sonoma así.
It's sad to see our Sonoma in this state, he said, but he wished luck to his fellow residents of Sonoma County, urging they keep moving forward. Bye. Now, This entire time, we've been trying to bring you some bright spots from the city of Sonoma. I can tell you that there is a bit more of a pulse than we've seen the past few days. There are more cars around, and perhaps most inspiring, a number of restaurants have been opening up. And the best part about that is that people have been filling those restaurants to grab a bite. Live from Sonoma, Danny Freeman, back to you guys.
All right, Danny, back to you through this night. Today, Sonoma County Sheriff deputies arrested a man who has been discovered looting from various places in the area. Sheriff deputies arrested Morgan Plumer. Sheriff deputies say that Mr. Plumer was stealing from a car in an evacuated area. They also say this man stole from a vineyard management center as well as the fire department. He's been arrested for looting, possession of stolen property, and possession of drugs.
About 90 evacuees are staying at a shelter in American Canyon where Good Samaritans have been stopping by, dropping off supplies. American Canyon High School is making sure undocumented immigrants feel safe there. Take a look at this sign outside the building. It's written in Spanish telling people that they're not going to ask about your immigration status. The sheriff in Sonoma has stressed that that is the case throughout all of the Northern California areas where evacuation orders are in place. They don't care who you are in terms of immigration. They just want to document who you are. They'll ask for your name so that if you're on a missing persons list, they can check you off that way. The city of Calistoga told people to go to this shelter in American Canyon after that entire city was under a mandatory evacuation order on Wednesday afternoon. It's still in place. Evacuees talked to Crown 4 today about what it was like to have to leave so quickly.
The only thing I did take was a picture of my mom and dad and my mom's rings, and that was it. And I thought, I can go on from here. I can, no matter what happens. I honestly believe that it's going to be all right for me, and I'll be available to help everyone else.
By the way, volunteers are still needed at American Canyon High School. The shelter says it does not need any more physical supplies, but if you'd like to donate your time, they'll take it. And if you'd like to donate money, you can do that to the Salvation Army or the Red Cross.
Tribune today, this morning's edition, top of the fold, A1, the week Sonoma burned. That's what's on people's mind right here. And unfortunately, we got to look firsthand at some of those areas that were burned today. Fewer than 10 miles away from downtown Sonoma, a charred, blackened landscape. Many vineyards and buildings intact, but a once bucolic scenery now changed. Here we met up with Gil Parsons, who has lived in these hills for over 3 decades.
So we were evacuated several days ago, and this is the first I've been back.
Remnants of the fire all around.
Everything's scorched immediately beyond us, and now scorched from the other side as well.
But miraculously, the fire stopped at his property.
Fire was right here, right? This is your property.
That's amazing. It's beyond comprehension. Perhaps there's some magic force that we don't know about.
All but one of his animals survived, cared for by Good Samaritan neighbors.
It's incredible, the spirit that people are showing. It's especially the animal people. Everybody has joined together.
When Gil came back to his property here, he saw that there was one patch of land still smoking. Omar here is wetting it down with water to make sure it doesn't reignite. Omar Estrada works for Parsons. The fire came close to his own house, but his home is intact.
Es triste ver nuestro Sonoma así.
It's sad to see our Sonoma in this state, he said, but he wished luck to his fellow residents of Sonoma County, urging they keep moving forward. Things have been opening up, and the best part about that is that people have been filling those restaurants to grab a bite. Live from Sonoma, Danny Freeman, back to you guys.
All right, Danny, back to you through this night. Today, Sonoma County Sheriff deputies arrested a man who has been discovered looting from various places in the area. Sheriff deputies arrested Morgan Plumer. Sheriff deputies say that Mr. Plumer was stealing from a car in an evacuated area. They also say this man stole from a vineyard management center as well as the fire department. He's been arrested for looting, possession of stolen property, and
Zekowi's home, only the stone pillars next to the mailbox still stand. Here's what their home used to look like, but the Santa Rosa family isn't really focusing on what is gone. They are grateful about what they do have, each other.
We are, of course, not happy our home burned, but I do not feel sad. Everything that's important is in this room.
And they add that it's all because of the incredible, selfless actions of 2 police officers. Here's what happened. It was early Monday morning. The family says that the wind knocked out the power. they did not think much of it.
Around 11 o'clock, 11:10, the power went out, which happens sometimes. You know, we thought maybe our food would spoil, and that was that.
However, as they slept, fire erupted in their neighborhood and quickly spread. That's when 2 police officers rushed into their burning home.
Officers barged into our bedroom and said, there's a fire, you have 1 minute to get dressed and get out.
And then what went through your mind?
We wanted to get dressed and get out. So there were no lights on, and we just threw on some clothes and ran downstairs.
Jill says that they grabbed the dog, shoved everyone into a car, including Jill's father and partner sleeping in the front room, and drove as fast as they could. They are hanging out at Stefan's office for now and staying at a friend's home. When I spoke to them, it was a tearful exchange, as they told me the reason they are speaking up about this is that they want to reach out to the officers. They don't even know who saved them.
It's hard to put the words to how I feel when I think of them risking their own lives and their own families, knowing that they're out there heading into the fire and risking their lives. And I thank their families for supporting them to save our family. It means the world.
Jill said that she just wants to give the officers a hug. We'll have more on the family coming up on Cron 4 News at 6:30. Here in Santa Rosa, Teresa Stasio, Cron 4 News.
Thank you.
Lean Rossetti, the journey's end was home for a year and a half. Now she says it's impossible to point out where her mobile home once stood.
I can't tell where my rubble ends and someone else's begins.
Through the afternoon, at least 50 search and rescue volunteers, some from as far south as Monterey County, walked the grounds in Santa Rosa searching for human remains with the help of 5 trained cadaver dogs, checking on 5 specific addresses, then branching out through the rest of the park. Eileen fears some of her neighbors who went missing never made it out of the fire alive.
I feel really sad. I tried to get one of my neighbors out, but he wouldn't go. I think he probably eventually went, but it's just sad. I mean, there's a lot of nice people.
Sergeant Dave Thompson with the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office says the bone fragments of at least one person were found here.
This is very labor intensive, as you can imagine. It's a home, one of the more tougher duties to have to do.
I don't know what we're going to do. My husband and I are just completely devastated. We got our 3 dogs out, though. But it's just, everything's unsure.
She's just grateful that, unlike others, her family is safe and accounted for. In Santa Rosa, Philippe.
3688 Mocha Lane in Santa Rosa. The bare bones of a home burned by wildfire.
You don't even see a resemblance of what it used to be.
Just one of the many addresses in this Coffee Park neighborhood where a deadly wind-driven firestorm chased people out of bed in the middle of the night on Monday.
Everything was gray, everything was destroyed, and it went for miles.
One of those stories is about a girl and her dog.
I would never part ways with my dog, ever.
And their unconventional method of getting out alive.
It's my ride or die. Oh my God, literally.
Santa Rosa junior college soccer player Natasha Wallace was studying across town until nearly 2 in the morning. On her way home, she saw the fire from the freeway, meaning she had the perspective to know everyone needed to evacuate immediately.
So it just ran us out of the area.
So she shoved Bentley, her 4-year-old pit bull, into her Honda and drove down the road. Within minutes, she was stuck between other cars. This one right beside her crashed and overturned.
It was coming faster than I can leave through the traffic, so I went back to the house, grabbed my bike.
She also grabbed a duffel bag, which she used as a makeshift sidecar for her 70-pound best friend.
I held the duffel bag like this, put it over, and I rode my bike with it on my arms, and I was just pedaling like that.
She says after she made it down the road a few miles ahead of the fire, but to have people around to help.
Tells me that her mother, who died when she was young, she had some very sentimental items of her mother that were inside the home, but, you know, Tanakwi family was asleep. Listen into their story.
We are, of course, not happy our home burned, but I do not feel sad. Everything that's important is in this room.
Yeah.
So we feel grateful, very grateful.
It's hard to put the words to how I feel when I think of them, supporting them to
like they woke us up, but I don't think that they had to be sorry about that in a moment like this.
You're just glad that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember always seeing on the TV when something like this has happened to someone and not understanding why they were so thankful and why they weren't crying that everything they had known had been destroyed. But honestly, now that I'm in this position, I'm just so thankful that everyone I know is okay and that.
Now, this is a picture of what their house used to look like. Besides their home, they lost 2 cars inside the house. And then Mia shared
that these homes, the entire park, had been destroyed. That's not the case. I learned this because there was a man here who actually helped save these homes. Now, the back area of the park, which is a few of them got lost. So I learned all this from Priest Morgan. He's the one who woke up from a dead sleep Sunday. He saw flames, he saw fire trucks, and he started to evacuate, but thought, hey, I'm a former firefighter, which was what he had done. He'd been retired, but he thought he needed to do something, so he asked one of the firefighters there on the scene for a hose that he could run. And he said even though they were evacuating Kaiser Permanente at the time, and even though firefighters went against protocol to do that for him, they did help him save several homes.
They cut a hole in the fence, they gave me the hose, I went down and started to work, and the captain walks up and says, where's that hose going? And the guy says, some guy came and got it. So he come and found me. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to save my street. He looks to both directions, and I don't think he realized there were that many houses still there. He went, whoa.
And Morgan is worried himself that a lot of people don't realize their homes are still standing. That's why he wanted to tell his story. He counted 43 of these mobile homes that are still standing. Of course, some of them will have damage to some degree, but still standing. That's better than the total destruction we see in other parts. Now, meanwhile, Sonoma County Sheriff search and rescue crews were digging through the ashes.
This happens and there's nobody around. What are you going to do? Run? I'm running to it, not away from it.
Like so many Napa Valley residents, Kevin Holman has a tale to tell about the wildfire cycle into the flames on Monday, scouting the fire's path, sounding the alarm.
Yeah, that was
someone that's out here awake and alert that could let them know if the fire is coming towards their home. It is a tense state of affairs here in the Geyserville and Healdsburg area. Right now, the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office is not saying when people that have evacuated can get back into their homes. Coming up at 9, we'll hear from a fire official about the challenges of fighting multiple fires here at a time. Reporting live in Geyserville, Hermel Aragawi, KRON 4.
Morgan has lived in Journey's End Mobile Home Park for 4 years.
This is a senior park, and I'm one of the few able-bodied men around here, so when they want to move a couch or they want to move something ever, they need a hand, they seem to come to my door.
As crews were still searching through the ashes Friday, he wanted to tell me some good news about his neighborhood.
That's my house.
That it wasn't completely in ruins. Sunday night, the former firefighter said God woke him up from a deep sleep just in time.
I came to the front door and I saw 30-foot flames coming out of the Hilton Hotel.
He was about to evacuate, but stopped and reminded himself that he was someone who could help. Morgan asked a firefighter who was helping with hospital evacuations next door to lend him a hose so he could fight back flames in the mobile home park. Because they were stretched so thin, the firefighter went ahead and broke down the fence to feed in a hose to a civilian, something Morgan knows is against protocol.
God was whispered in their ear.
By that point, the captain himself was shocked to see how many homes hadn't yet been consumed by the raging Tubbs fire.
They shouldn't have gave me that hose. That captain should have said, oh, it's okay. None of that should have happened. God was doing his thing because that needed to be done.
As he sprayed down a whole row of homes and fought back flames, Morgan heard the dog yipping next door. If it hadn't been for those barks, Morgan wouldn't have known. Still standing today.
Sahara Street, the backside facing Kaiser, from one end to the other, is completely unburned.
Morgan worries a lot of his neighbors don't even know.
At the Journeys and Mobile Home Park in Santa Rosa. Trained volunteers to look through ash for the remains. Cadaver dogs were brought in to help in the search. The dogs were also brought into the Rincon Ridge Drive area on Fountain Grove Parkway and Millbrook Drive.
Come on, she's disabled. All right, let me get her feet.
All right. The Sheriff's Department said today that there were 15 deputies out that evening, Sunday evening, trying to get people out of their homes. At one point, they actually had to lift a disabled woman and put her in the back of a cruiser and take her to safety. That if any neighborhood is, if anyone is put under an evacuation advisory, which means they don't actually have to leave, but it's just an advisory, he suggests that they actually get out.
Remember, advisory, in this kind of fire, leave. There's no reason to get stuck in traffic waiting around when they tell you to prepare to evacuate. Find a way out, get out now before you have to do that.
And also today, the Sheriff's Department said that the search continues for human remains. He said that they still have 1,485 people were reported missing. 1,250 have been accounted for, so there's still 235 people outstanding, and the search for remains continues. And finally, this evening, the Sheriff's Department also said that a lot of people are asking when they will be able to return home, and they say that at this point, they do not know. It is still very dangerous. There is still a lot of power line work and utility work that needs to be done. It could be quite some.
This is unbelievable video of Old Redwood Road in Santa Rosa by the Kaiser Hospital as brave drivers swerve out of the way of massive flames slithering onto the roadway in the wee hours on Sunday morning. It continued like this onto the 101 freeway. The McAlvin family made it out alive with their 2 small children in tow.
The flames were crossing over to Hopper, and the flames were going over our truck, or my truck, and I had my 5-month-old in the truck.
And if it weren't for their baby keeping mom up at 1 a.m.,
I almost definitely would have been asleep. Yeah, I wouldn't have woken up if she didn't wake me up.
the McAlvins are grateful to be safe, but their house on Carriage Lane in the Wiki neighborhood is gone, one of 5,700 structures leveled by the relentless flames in the North Bay. Their old home is stark difference from this cramped room they're now sharing.
I lived where my son could roam free and run and get all the necessities that he needed, being in our backyard and running around our house. And then now we're living with 4 people in one room and a dog. So it's rough.
All they had were the clothes on their backs and each other until the donation able to stay at. In Roanoke Park, Ella Sigamonia, Con4 News.
This evening in Santa Rosa's Coffee Park neighborhood. That was one of the hardest hit spots when the wildfire came through. Thousands of people lived here. Hundreds of homes burned down. A week ago, this place would have been everywhere. And I just want to show you how fast this fire came through. You talk about the heat. This is the metal that heated up into liquid form and was dripping down this driveway before it later hardened. I know we've all seen endless TV news and social media about this big event. To fully understand the amount of damage here to this neighborhood and how fast the fire came through, you really have to physically be here and walk through it. Video online, and once you play it, it's interactive. If you're on your phone with your finger using touch, you can move around up and down, left and right, 360, or if you are watching on your computer, you would use your mouse and just click on the video.
Local residents. Congressman for residents to write questions down to ask.
Well, fire is a very dynamic situation.
if you're out of your house, there's a reason that you're out of your house. The winds are predicted to shift coming out of the northeast, shifting to northwest, and there's still a lot of uncontrolled fire lines. So the potential is there. We do have multiple resources in the area. However, the potential is there if we do get strong gusty winds for the fire to continue to spread south.
Wind is picking up, and that is a concern that the fire will grow and the conditions become more dangerous and the fire will spread. People that live around here tell me in the last day or so the smoke in the hills of North Hillsburg had died down, but today it's been picking up. Around 4 o'clock this afternoon, the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office issued a mandatory evacuation for parts of Geyserville and Healdsburg. A lot of people left their homes and some are nearby under an advisory. Concerned that with winds expected to pick up, they will be next for evacuation. We spoke to Geyserville Fire Department officials, and they tell us it is difficult to keep up with this fire.
It's just been horrible. You know, it's breathtaking when you're in the middle of a storm like that, and you know people aren't getting out, and it's actually heartbreaking. And we were just in awe of the immense speed of it, but the main concern has been the wind. The wind-driven and the red flag warnings make it so that we can't keep up with it. Any embers blow and it's so dry that it just starts in other spots.
Again, a lot of people here in the Geyserville area are under that advisory. They say it's hard to sleep at night because they don't know how quickly the fire will move, and many of them have already packed though and ready to go just in case. Coming up at 10, we'll hear from more residents who say they live in fear that in a moment's notice, if the wind picks up and changes direction, that they're going to lose everything. Reporting live in Geyserville, Hermel Aragawi, Cron 4 News.
Sheriff's Office! Woman who was disabled, they had to put her in the back of a cruiser and take her to safety. Now, the Sheriff's Department also says today that this could happen again. This is still a very volatile situation, and they are asking people to be careful, heed authorities, and make sure that you pay attention to those evacuation advisories and warnings.
I really want to impress upon people.
Also on Friday, the search continued for the remains of folks who might still be missing or who may have perished in this fire. A total of 1,485 people were reported missing. Of those, 1,250 have been found safe. So there are still 235 folks who are on the...
San Francisco Police, you're here, announce yourself.
There are two types of looter patrols in and around Santa Rosa. There are different law enforcement agencies, and then there are people like,
we're out here holding down the neighborhood. We got lights out back, neighbors next door, neighbors on every block. We're on the radios talking to each other, and we're generally just making sure nobody's coming here to take our neighbor's stuff. Looters, fire guys, sheriffs and SFPD have been real good about getting there and knocking them down as soon as we call them. So we got nothing. We got nothing being stolen. A bunch of people on foot getting caught and pulled out of here. So if you're coming to try and get your stuff, it's safe. Just let these guys do their job in the meantime.
So you guys are out here. I see you got your bats. What are you trying to make sure we keep?
I'm just keeping the neighborhood safe.
Have you seen anything?
No, it's been pretty quiet. So yeah, just kind of.
There was one sign off Wiki up that says, "My kids got caught looting on Londonderry."
Mind if we walk around? Yeah, go ahead, walk around. Ooh, you're so familiar.
So while there are two types of looter patrols, the only ones sanctioned are the ones by the law enforcement agencies. But if you do decide to venture out into those neighborhoods,
anybody comes in this area in the meantime, whether they're a disaster tourist, coming to check on their stuff or whatnot, we don't know. So just stay off the street. Otherwise, we're assuming you're looting. We're going to deal with you accordingly.
Make sure you're in a marked police cruiser.
Clear.
Otherwise, you're on your own.
These gates are unlocked. This sliding glass door was moved, but it was still locked. So they might have tried it, and it was unsuccessful. But yeah, the good open gate was worth the walk through.
The cops have been on regular patrol. They're in and out of here every 2 minutes at least. So we're doing a pretty good job of keeping things as safe as we can.
In Santa Rosa, Stanley Roberts.
Park neighborhood in Santa Rosa is now a shell of itself. Blocks of homes, no longer there. The devastation has been a part of John Phillips's ride into work since Monday. He owns Inspiration Vineyards and Winery, which fortunately was not damaged in the fires.
A lot of my friends and neighbors live in the Coffee Park neighborhood and just feeling horrible for them.
Phillips's crews are working through the disaster.
Started making wine at a very small scale where we used very minimal over the last week.
Phillips says he hopes his business lives up to its name and inspires members of the community not to give up. He lives just 4 miles away from Coffee Park and has a vested interest in this neighborhood beyond his winery.
We just want people to know that we are here. We want people to come back and visit us. And
a few minutes ago, I could see orange flames lighting up the sky, and those flames are about 4 miles away from where I'm at right now. It's between Los Alamos and Oakmont. Keep in mind, Oakmont is a retirement community where you have to be at least 55 years old to live in that community. And that's where firefighters are lined up protecting the Oakmont community. I was told by Don Peterson and his friend Jake Smith that approximately 1,000 homes are in the Oakmont area. Once again, there is a fire line there.
Question or no?
This is an area that's been through a lot over the past 5-6 days. As I look in the north direction, there's a ridge that's completely burnt. That's only about 2 miles away. They said that was extremely scary on Monday night and Tuesday morning. They survived that situation. It's been 4 close calls on Calistoga Road over the past 4 days, and that's the reason why Don Peterson is saying, look, I'm not going to leave my house. His attitude is the people whose homes have burnt down are the ones who did not continue to fight. I have been out here for approximately an hour now on the road here, lacking manpower in the neighborhood right now. Therefore, homes are being burnt down because there's not enough fire lines. So he said, look, if I soak my house and then they tell me you absolutely have to go now because it's within, a couple of blocks, then he will take off and go. Otherwise, he says, look, I need to stand near my home. He's been in this community for 13 years. Mm-hmm. He's been serving firefighters and several of the members of the community over the last 3 to 4 days. In fact, he has a huge garage, and everyone has rallied around Don Peterson. His home is loaded with donations right now, and he says, I'm going to give back to this community. He said, I'm not going to be stupid and actually die out here, but I'm not leaving until the absolute last second. His wife has a different approach right now. They own a pawn shop. She's at the pawn shop at a safer location because it's on top of asphalt. But he says, look, it's my job to protect this home. He and his son and a very close friend who lost his home not too long ago are all watering down the entire property right now.
So he's adamant about that. That's where we find Cron Forest Camila Bernal with the latest there. Camila, good morning.
Hey Marty, good morning. So what you're looking at is video of that smoke. The fire is behind the mountains and it's hard to see because that smoke has covered the mountains and has covered the flames, but the fire is there and it's burning. When the wind blows and the smoke shifts, I'm able to see those flames behind the mountains. I'm on 5th Street, so you see the vineyards on 5th Street near MacArthur. Evacuation, that is in Sonoma Valley. Now, mandatory evacuations are also in effect in Santa Rosa, east of Calistoga Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits, and north of Melita Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits. This includes all of Skyhawk, Oakmont, and much of Rincon Valley. They're asking you to evacuate your homes immediately. All of those areas that we just mentioned under mandatory evacuation. If you're not in those areas but you're close by, you might be under a voluntary evacuation. So they're asking you to have your stuff ready to pack your bags just in case the wind shifts, carrying that fire to an area near you. They're asking everybody to be vigilant and to be ready just in case you have to evacuate. Marty, back to you.
Kayla, before you go, one quick question. The winds have been driving these evacuations because of the winds coming out of the north. Does it feel, do you feel the windy conditions where you are right now?
So right now it's not very windy, but what I can see is the shifting of the smoke. So I can tell there is wind that is moving that smoke. And so it's causing that very thick cloud of smoke to move and cover the fire in the mountains. So I know there is some wind right where I'm standing. I don't feel a lot of wind, but I can definitely see What you can see behind me is the smoke. The fire is actually right behind me, behind those mountains. When I was driving here this morning and I arrived in this area, I was able to see the flames. They were orange and they were big. They were right behind those mountains, and you can see it all in the outline. Now there's just a very thick cloud of smoke, but it is very visible and it is very imminent in this area now. Let's talk about some of those mandatory evacuations in the area. If we think about the Sonoma Valley, keep in mind that 7th Street East from East Napa Street to Denmark Street, the north side of Denmark Street from 7th Street East to Napa Road, all of that is under mandatory evacuation. 8th Street East north of Denmark Road, East MacArthur Street, east of 7th Street East, all of that under mandatory evacuation as well, and Quail Run Way and Hamblin Road, all under mandatory evacuation. We're repeating these because they're important. Now, if you're in Santa Rosa, there are mandatory evacuations there as well. East of Calistoga Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits, and north of Melita Road to the city of Santa Rosa limits, all of that under mandatory evacuation. This includes all of Skyhawk, Oakmont, and much of the Rincon Valley. They're asking you to just evacuate as soon as you can. That is under mandatory evacuation. Now, back here in Sonoma, all of the houses in front of me are under a voluntary evacuation. All of the houses in back of me at home, authorities are asking you just to be very vigilant and pay attention in case
evacuees are standing in the area. Media are allowed to go by. However, they're not allowing us to drive past Melita Road and Highway 12. You got to do a hike. It's approximately about a 2-mile hike. I got my camera, tripod, and I am going to make that hike to see exactly what's going on. To tell you, the winds have died down some. However, that glow in the sky has increased. The last time I talked to you, I was about a mile away from Highway 12. Now I'm only about a half mile, and it's no longer blowing in the southwest direction. I would say it's blowing more in the northwest direction now. But once again, give me a second, and I will make sure I get some video for the next time that I'm actually going live with you. But we're talking about an area right now that is pretty big. It's not too far away, once again, from Los Alamos in the Oakmont community. Several water trucks have passed me, and big equipment, heavy equipment, bulldozer, heavy equipment as well, water trucks. I have not seen any airplanes in the sky helping fight this fire at all. They had a spotter helicopter that went up as soon as sunrise hit, but that's about it. I will have some more information with you as I go. But once again, I talked to several residents, and they said they're extremely, extremely concerned about
power in certain areas on this fire, but unfortunately, they're becoming very erratic. They're doing what we call eddying, which
Central complex, there's nearly 3,000 fires. 3,000. I haven't heard the latest on where everybody is from, but it's been to help us, which is where a lot of these. So we're really concerned with the high.
And the biggest issue we've had this week is residents showing some understandable frustration that they can't get back to their homes. And, you know, our officers understand that, but we've got these neighborhoods locked down for several reasons. Safety is number one. We don't want to send anybody back into a neighborhood that might be unsafe, that does not have power or water. So we're working with our utilities and public safety partners to make sure I'll see in my career.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for your service, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the morning. Thank you for spending some time with us. John Sloat with the CHP in Santa Rosa. I want to tell you about those new evacuations in Sonoma County overnight. We want to go live to Camila Bernal, who is in Sonoma. She has the latest on that. Camila, good morning.
Marty, good morning. I am on East Napa Street and 6th Street East, just a block away from 7th Street, which it's the area where the mandatory evacuations are. And like I told you just a couple minutes ago, I talked to some of the officers here, and they told me that this area might not be under voluntary evacuation for very long. They're also asking that you be very respectful of the road closures. They are not letting anyone in no matter what. They're not letting reporters, they're not letting residents cross through these streets, and they're even telling residents that they could get arrested if they're seen crossing into these streets. So basically, you either have to be inside your home or you have to be on your way out. Other than that, there is nobody on the streets and nobody is allowed in this area. Earlier in the day, we were able to see the flames. We were able to see the fire not very far away. Now you don't really see the fire, you just see a lot of the smoke. But there is definitely more mandatory evacuations. Let's take a look at the graphics so that we can explain where these evacuations are. Mandatory evacuations in Sonoma Valley are on 7th Street East, from East Napa Street to Denmark Street. They're on the north side of Denmark Street from 7th Street East to Napa Road. They're on 8th Street East, north of Denmark Road. East MacArthur Street, east of 7th Street East. It's Quail Run Way and Hamblin Road. All of it under mandatory evacuation. They're asking that if you're in that area, you get out as soon as possible. Now let's go over to Santa Alita Road to the city of Santa Rosa limit. If you're under a voluntary evacuation, that advisory just means you have to be ready. You have to have your bags packed. You just have to be ready to go at any moment because it can come knocking on your door and you might only have seconds. You did see some damage. Everybody to be very, very respectful of what's closed and to get out if you can.
Now, Camila, this is going to be repetitive, but we need to emphasize this again. You're saying where you are is a voluntary evacuation.
Correct. Those were his exact words. I asked him, is this area under mandatory evacuation? And he said, it's not, but it might not be for long, which is why people have to be ready and they have to be paying attention. And they just have to be very careful because in a matter of minutes, in a matter of hours, it could be a mandatory evacuation zone. So just people have to have their bags packed and be completely ready. We just never know. It might not be. It might not get to that point, but there is a possibility that it would become a mandatory evacuation zone and people have to be ready.
Yeah, and as we've learned that lesson time and time again over the past week. Thank you, Camila. Camila Bernal reporting for us from Sonoma. I want to go now to Dave Cannon. He's the photographer who has been who shot some of the video of the fire this morning. Dave, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell us about your situation and what it was like to shoot some of that harrowing footage that we have on our screen now?
Yes, I can. Well, this is very reminiscent of the Sunday night, early Monday morning fires that I shot in Napa. As you know, we've been dealing with these for seems like almost a week now, but I got up today. I was woken up on my radio at my bedside, and I heard them calling some extra strike teams. So I went out to see what was going on, and when I got to the valley floor of Sonoma, the whole entire hillside was just lit up bright orange, and you could tell there was a decent wind on it. And the first thing I noticed was that the Sonoma Sheriff Department and other police agencies that are assisting were going up and down the block, saying to the residents on their loudspeaker, "This is the Sheriff Department, get out now. This is the Sheriff Department, get out now." So I knew it was a very serious situation, and I eventually worked my way up to that people are losing in this kind of manner, and the fires. Stop into the shelter, please.
Mm-hmm. And the situation as far as
there's always a few people who want to stay home.
Is concerned. What are some of the
in the state? And this is just